Welcome back, everybody, to the Eastern Clash in Taipei, Taiwan. We are ready for our last series of the day. I'm Calder. With me is Gilly and Trixler, and we have another highlight on our hands.
One more elimination series to close out the day, and it's a sad one.
Yeah, it's a sad one, but also a very important one to those that are here at the home state, home country of Taiwan. Obviously here we have the last Taiwan team and the last Chinese team fighting to be in the top 4 of the tournament.
Exactly. We already saw earlier on Team Face Check once, and let's just say they had a bit of a rough match in the winner bracket here. But now they're going up against the last remaining Chinese team, against CE. And CE had a few problems, especially since they had to replace one of their players.
Yeah, I think both these teams definitely need a little bit of the tune-up a little bit, but that's what makes this match so exciting, right? We're going to have so many variables that will be coming in. I mean, let's not forget, TFC was kind enough to show us Chogo Ariel.
Yeah, I think we could see an opportunity for a lot of innovative drafting here. It's worked to some success here and there for TFC. Obviously, their Cho'Gall was able to withstand the Nova Chromie explosion that was on the other side, but then their Ragnaros not faring so well once they were put up against L5.
Yeah, our minor regions really enjoy that Ragnaros. We've seen it a few times, and again, you brought up the other point too, with Shy being in the mix here for CE. I actually want to see TFC push him to the limits. We've seen him on Lenara most of the time in this tournament, a couple times on Greymane, but I want to know, if you take away, maybe ban out that Lenara, pick up Greymane, what happens for CE?
I actually like his Lunara play a lot more than I like what he did with Greymane. Every single time they utilized Lunara, they looked so much stronger as a team. Yeah. Whereas with Greymane, he oftentimes found himself not really on the same page as the rest of the team. It's definitely one of the things that we're looking forward to when the series is about to start. But before we're heading into the series itself, we're going to take another closer look at the schedule and the remaining schedule for the tournament here, of course. So already our series here today, the surprise actually, Black taken out by Tempest. Was really nice to see how Tempest was able to force Black into submission after everybody was just talking Black up throughout the entire tournament. And Black themselves just saying, we are here to win, we're going to take this one easily, we are super confident, and we're not going to lose.
Yeah, Tempest were able to stretch MVP Black's drafting to the limits and excel in the team fighting, which is where we know Tempest loves to thrive. Meanwhile, Soul Torturers versus MVP Black. Soul Torturers were able to win that one game on Battlefield of Eternity, but finally MVP Black showed that they are willing to do what is necessary and adjust their drafting if they're going to be able to make the run now all the way up through the lower bracket.
Yeah, speaking to them right after the match, it was actually kind of interesting here from Kyocha. Yeah, we lost, so we decided maybe it's time to win, and they want to be the team here that comes out with the victory. So MVP Black has certainly has been awoken, I guess that's the word to look for here, and they are alert. They're ready to go ahead and run through this tournament and be the #1 team. But again, it's all about tonight here as we get to watch TFC. I'm so excited for them.
Yeah, well, and as we're talking about TFC, we're going to take a closer look at their lineup once again as they are starting into what could potentially be the last series in the tournament. We can talk a lot about the hero pools of players, about the skill level, but I have to ask one of the more serious questions first. Is KD4 the biggest troll that we have in the tournament?
Why is
that?
That
big smirk that he has on his face every single... I mean, unfortunately in this shot, I think he doesn't really know that we're showing him at this point, but throughout the interviews, every single time I'm seeing him talking to a camera, that smirk is insane.
It's one of the reasons why I think he's my favorite player on this roster. One, because I think he's a great warrior player that can show a lot of patience when needed. And two, you look at him and he just lights up your day, man. He is always smiling, ready to get the games going on. For once, we actually see a serious face there, which does kind of scare me. KT being serious? He might be devastating.
Why wouldn't you be serious now? Your sister team has been eliminated from the tournament, which means they are the sole remaining representative of the home crowd here. They know that they're going to have the crowd behind them, and although that can bolster you as a team, it can also put a lot more pressure on you to make sure that you succeed.
And with Soul Torturers gone, it's also interesting to note that Soul Torturers was also, of course, aiming for that #4 spot here. So now Team FaceTech has another opportunity to simply show how strong they are here. Especially after that, from their perspective, disappointing performance they had just a few hours before in the winner bracket. So definitely an opportunity for them to redeem themselves here.
I am a bit worried that the pressure might be getting to them slightly. In that matchup we just saw them with MVP Black, it felt like they were moving into moments where they were trying to force fights and try to force scenarios where it was a little bit odd. In particular, Ostinger on that gray main was aggressive way too much, and it really was punished heavily by MVP Black. And it kind of goes against what they came into this tournament and said they want to do. Be reactive, respond to our opponents, and counter-strike them. So I want to see that aggression that we saw in the last series maybe toned down slightly.
Yeah, that is the style of composition and style of play that they designed specifically for the Chinese teams. And so going in and getting behind right away to L5, a Korean team in the macro game, put them in a spot where they never could feel comfortable to counter-aggress. So I'm hoping that they get an opportunity to showcase their way of being able to control the battleground so that they do get opportunities to force CE to be the ones to make the fights, and then they'll be the ones to counter-aggress.
And talking about CE and the Chinese team, we're of course also going to take a look at their roster and what they bring to the table for the next series of the day. CE, once again, the Chinese team here with Shy in their setup. So the replacement player coming from another Chinese HGC team has so far had his ups and downs in the tournament, I would say. We talked about his performance on Lunara, on Greymane. But Tim, as you already said earlier, what happens if both of those heroes are taken away from him?
Yeah, can they stress out the new guy, which is kind of unfortunate, but that is a legitimate strategy. You come into a tournament, and if you have a sub that's coming in there, you need to find a way to weaken your opponents. And right now, that's probably the easiest approach to move into. Another approach that I would like to see from possibly Soul Torturers is trying to lock down that Arthas. It felt like whenever CE did have Arthas on their team, they played astronomically better than their other matches here. So if they can get that Arthas away from them too, that could also be great.
I have to say one thing about Wind on Arthas. Every single time I see him on Arthas, it makes it incredibly difficult for me to cast, because I always find myself thinking back to when we were casting Heroes of the Dome and we had the Winds on Arthas.
Oh yeah.
Exactly the same thing. So it seems there's something going on with the name and the hero that just works well.
Talking about that Arthas, though, is a great point that you've brought up, because CE, that was their #1 hero picked in the league, and they still believe that he is very strong. And it looks like when you look at the drafts of CE, they have this beautiful combination of Western and Eastern metas. Yes, they prefer double support, but they want it with a Tassadar, the way we would see more likely in Eastern metas. They love Ariel. They feel like they learned about her and her strength from Swoy. But then they still like things like Arthas, and they play a lot of Lunara because of Shy. So it's been cool to see how their drafting has so far evolved throughout this tournament.
And we're going to see that drafting, of course, now on the first game. Our first map is ready, so we're going to take a closer look at the bans and the first map pick and where exactly we're going to for our first match. Bans on the side of TFC, they're taking out Towers of Doom, and Battlefield of Eternity eliminated by CE, so a little bit less team fighting as we're heading into Sky Temple, the first map of the day. A huge priority here for the teams at the Eastern Clash.
And while I'm excited to go to Sky Temple, I think I'm more excited that Braxis Holdout is actually a battleground that is available here. CE loves to go to Braxis Holdout, and they got some fun cheese.
The only thing that you want to see is another Cho'Gall.
Well, yeah, I'm down for the Cho'Gall, but Karazim Insight, hello? That's super fun to watch here. But let's go ahead and go into Sky Temple, check out Team Face Check as they take on CE.
Team Face Check. Well, first of all, when we're talking about Team CE, this is also a map on which they played several times now, and CE always tried to draft Lunara for Shy when they were hitting the battleground. Now, if Team Face Check did their homework, then they could try and take Lunara away from them. Don't really expect an early ban. There's way too many high priority heroes that make for better early bans, but there's definitely potential for Lunara to either be taken away or maybe eliminated in the second ban.
CE is so far undefeated on Sky Temple in this tournament. That's the one place where they were able to defeat Tempest. And with Tempest now beating MVP Black, I put CE's power level in this tournament as a big question mark. We don't really know yet, because every time they play a series, they ramp up more and more as a team, as they adjust to this new player in Shy. It's been crazy to see, and I'm hoping that we see them continue to do that in this series.
I mean, they themselves said they don't really know where they are. They said with our original lineup, we would have said definitely we are within the top 3. Now that we had to substitute a player, that Shy joined us to complete the lineup, we guess top 6 is something that we can achieve. Now they're already in the top 4, more or less guaranteed. So right now, if they are going to take down Team FaceCheck here, the sky's the limit.
Quite the question mark, but I will say that I've gotten a few more exclamation marks from them. With them being with that Lunara, they've been so well. But the problem is, most of the time, they have set up already with that Oriole being on their team. They're going to ban out the Oriole here, which kind of gets me a little bit on the perky side here. I'm actually kind of excited. Now, without Oriole and Lunara being on the mix-up, we might have a different plan coming in from CE.
This puts a lot of things available. Genji is still on the table, and he has been one of the most hotly banned heroes in all of this tournament, and so has Stitches. Both Stitches and Genji are possibilities for CE, although traditionally, both of the Chinese teams here, SPT and CE, in the Phase 2 did not like playing Stitches. So in this case, they're going to go for the more aggressive comp of Greymane and Tyrael.
Yeah, at this point, CE deciding that they do not want to take the Genji into Uther. This is a lesson that was learned the hard way by teams like Roll20, for example, in HGC North America, how much Uther can actually counter that melee assassin. But we also all know how well Genji does once he has that Divine Shield from Uther. So Team FaceCheck, they definitely have a potential now for that synergy.
Definitely a double-edged Dragon Blade, man. Leaving that Genji up here for Team FaceCheck. Will they move into it, grab it, and set themselves up? Definitely a possibility. Other options, as you mentioned, that Stitches being up and available. And I actually like the Stitches here. I've been a little bit on the critical side for a lot of teams because they just pick the Stitches and they get no follow-up lockdown. Luckily now we have Uther here.
It was such a frustrating thing to see one of the earlier series where we had a Greymane with a Cursed Bullet, a Ragnaros, and the Stitches, and just no one to lock the target down for a second for both of them to get value
I
out
just
of
want
those
one.
heroics.
I'm not asking for 4 CCs. I just want one CC.
One
little
follow-up.
ult stun. Dahaka here will be a second pickup, and the Arthas coming in from Team FaceCheck. I love this here, Team FaceCheck, making sure the Winds doesn't get his favorite hero.
Yeah, a steal or a deny, although with the Tyrael, my thought would be that Wind would want that. So we'll have to see, but Arthas does, of course, provide a lot versus those aggressive heroes, auto attackers like Greymane, maybe forcing CE to play that Greymane more backline, not allowing him to do the Worgen build that we've seen here and there, especially from players like Hong Kono. And maybe even trying to dissuade something by adding even more melee to this, making a death ball with the sanctification of Tyrael.
This also makes picking Illidan a little bit on the more difficult side. We saw Illidan picked pretty often between these teams the last couple of days. So getting the Arthas, while I do believe the Tyrael is probably the pickup for the win, you just put yourself in a good spot. You take that away from your opponent, who could run double tank, and you also put yourself in a spot where you can handle that Illidan pressure that could come your way.
Illidan would require a lot of confidence, though, since at this point you go up against Arthas, Dehaka, and Uther. That's 3 heroes that have tools how they can deal with you, especially if Dehaka decides
Have
to
you
go
talked to
into
an
isolation.
Illidan player? I think confidence is not something they're missing out on.
That's true, but usually the rest of the team is the voice of reason in that setup.
Very
With the ban on Cassia now,
Yeah.
this is just screaming Tyrael more and more, and then it comes all down to Tyrael and the sanctification.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, or that's what I was going to allude to, is that Cassia ban shows that there's still some confidence from CE and then being able to draft more to go along with this death ball, although she does provide difficulties for a Greymane even too. We saw that earlier on, I think in the last series of Soul Torturers versus MVP Black.
Now, if you're seeing Illidan here, are we talking Abathur?
Possibly. From CE. They've ran it once already after this tournament. Could come out Sky Temple. I mean, we've seen all the strengths for it.
We also need to keep in mind that CE is a team that is not afraid to run Zeratul, where a lot of other teams have been okay with that. Paradise has been playing Zeratul for a long time, but TFC are not going to allow that to even be a possibility. With a lot of control between Void Prison and Sanctification, they say no thank you to that.
So is this going to be the draft where Genji is neither banned nor picked?
It's possible. I could see Team FaceCheck grabbing him a little bit on the later side if they get a little more burst on their side, but yeah. Genji could go all the way through. I mean, it's not too foreign here. We've seen Uther get through all the way through draft before in the past, so there's always a plan set up for these teams.
There's very interesting priorities that we had in a lot of these drafts. Sometimes the teams over here are not even respecting Uther enough to pick or ban him at all. Then in other instances, seen him Malfurion elevated to a first pick even, whereas before that he was picked once, maybe twice in the tournament overall. So from a priority perspective, it's really interesting how the Eastern teams are currently drafting.
Yeah, I expected the variation to come out to light in this series especially because CE drafts a little bit differently, and TFC feels like they ascribe more to the Western style of meta than Eastern, and then they have their own, we try to counter everything anyway, which is why we see things like Ragnaros or Cho'Gall pop up for them. And I anticipate that that will continue even more so toward the wild picks if we can get into games 4 and 5 in the series.
I like the false set on the Rhaegar. It feels like CE is actually playing a little bit more towards the map than I was originally anticipating that they would. They have their Mighty Gust for control of the boss, Tyrael's Identification as well. They have their damage set up if they want to move into it. Rhaegar for clearing out the mercenaries. Their lineup is pretty darn solid. Where Team FaceCheck, a little bit more on the macro side with the Dehaka being here, but they may have a hard time engaging into that Falstad with that Mighty Gust.
Yeah, when it comes to the boss fights in particular, Falstad is going to play a crucial role here, and CE's lineup overall is extremely powerful. The one that really has to play on point if it comes to that fight on the map is going to be Dehaka with a burrow, trying to dodge the gust at least and stay long enough on the point so that they can force a fight. But there's always Tyrael to consider, who then will use the Sanctification. So definitely catering a lot more towards the map on that second rotation. And Team FaceCheck is going for Lunara. They have Lunara and Karazim now, a double support taken, and Lunara taken away. CE, on the other hand, already has Greymane, which Shai has been playing quite a bit.
One final choice, almost certainly to be Paradise's hero, unless he plays the Tyrael. He has played Tyrael one time in the phase, so it's not out of the realm of possibility if they feel like they need another strong frontliner, a different strong frontliner for Wind, and there are still plenty of warriors up.
Yeah, there are a few. I mean, most notably is a new Barak, which this tournament, though, we've been missing out on pretty heavily. One that I don't think fits here, but one that I wish we could see a little bit more often this tournament, especially with Illidan popping up, is that Varian. Get that set up into the Cursed Bullet. Don't think he quite fits here, though. Another option that could pop up for CE can get just a little bit more on the support side if they want to go ahead and grab another one here to stop that Arthas from coming on the engage.
I actually anticipated you saying Murky.
Yeah, finally. That would be amazing.
Not going to happen.
It's going to be Leoric.
It's going to be Leoric for the bot lane here. And he actually get quite a bit of momentum with that drain against Arthas in particular.
Yeah, this is an old counter that kind of faded out a long time ago when Arthas stopped disappearing in Europe, but you would see that Leo and Arthas in the solo lanes, and Leo, he does pretty darn well when he has that Drain Hope.
It's still interesting that with all the priority that Illidan had so far, we don't see him in the draft here, and I think a lot of it comes down to what we had on the side of Team FaceCheck from the get-go, just specifically targeting anti-Illidan heroes on their side, picking them and creating a CC chain that a melee assassin just simply cannot engage without dropping.
The boss control for CE looks very good in what we have between the Falstad once Tyrael can get Sanctification and Holy Ground. I'm excited to see what Leo brings to this game as we get into Game 1.
Game number 1 starting up in the last best of 5 series of the day. Team FaceCheck starting to the left side. They go up against CE and they're rocking it with a double support. Karazim and Uther protecting Lunara as the damage dealer, and up at that front line, Arthas and Dehaka.
On the right side, in the red, we're going to have CE looking to control those bosses and the flow of the battleground. With Falstad and the Tyrael in particular, Leoric keeping up the soaking, Greymane, and of course Rhaegar to finish out the supports.
And of course, if you tune in a bit later here to the Eastern Clash, one of the things that's incredibly important to note about CE is that they had to overcome a visa problem from one of their players. They had to replace him, so Shai is now moving in as the 5th. And at the beginning of the tournament, he was definitely struggling a bit to fit in with the team. But now that they already have a few matches under their belt, he's definitely a lot more on the same page as his allies. So it's going to be the question, how far can these guys go?
Well, so far they're trying to go for a turret, and Shai will be the one to get caught out as he is focused down by Team FaceCheck.
And that's exactly one of the things we mentioned earlier in the draft. When he's on Lunara, he feels to be so much more confident in his ability and especially his positioning. But when he's on Greymane, he tends to overdo it just a bit, going in a bit too deep, staying a half a second too long, which oftentimes results in an early death.
I think that comes down to the evolution of playing the hero in a tournament. Lunara, I would think the first couple of times we saw him, a little bit too far forward. They're able to push on through. Greymane, with only having a couple games of practice, he's going to learn very quickly. And if he does not learn very quickly, his team is going to crumble, as you just saw right there. So Shai coming in, needs to sit behind that Leoric, sit behind that Tyrael.
Yeah, once again, he's up at the top, trying to get the damage in against Virgil here. But the drag is strong. Not enough damage to take the Dehaka down, though. Blue Fool is low, and so is Falstad. And he needs to move out here immediately. At this point, Team FaceCheck is really the team to start controlling the map and make the calls.
Yeah, they have opened up very well, catching that gray main push into the bottom. Typically, if you don't see that watchtower fight right away, you should beeline to that bottom lane, but still, it was quicker than you would normally see. So Team FaceCheck checking that bush and set themselves up as they have gotten that one kill, and of course, experience overall too. It's a little bit tied in experience, but I like the aggression they're showing.
Now, interesting choice here from Falstad from CE, flying down with a global to the bot lane. So that makes sure that he cannot join any fights in the middle or up at the top. So they are currently trying to simply trade the temple for a temple as they control the top, and Falstad will attempt to push out the bottom lane. And to be absolutely honest, so far, nobody on the side of Team FaceCheck cares about it.
Yeah, that's the issue here. If you see that Falstad in the bottom lane, you need to apply pressure on both of the temples. Put a 3v3 or 3 in the middle, but 2 on the top. Try to break them down and get a few more shots. Or at least respawn on that Falstad. Finally, Dahaka does come in.
Yeah, Dahaka moved in when he saw that there was about a wave to hit the wall, so that was incredibly well done on their part. With good timing, they kept him on the lane as long as they could, and then were making sure that they at least soaked the experience. But for CE, there was at least an even trade here, so Falstad not creating any problems for his team. And they put a lot of pressure to that top lane. Garnet Devil has absolutely no chance of keeping this fort alive. If Kim or Ostinger don't join for the defense, then this is going to spell trouble.
Yeah, this is the result of them doing a solid job of pushing in that top and breaking down the wall, which allowed for the temple they grabbed to the north to at least siege down that fort and get it low. Team FaceCheck doing everything they can, though, to prevent that fort falling, grabbing their mercs as quick as possible.
Leoric, by the way, going into a bit of an old-school build here, where as we see in the Western scene, a lot of Royal Focus being played to get more wave clear and try to soak 2 lanes. We're now seeing something that hasn't really been shown for a long time. Hardened Bones for Leoric, so the extra armor as you engage into the Wraith Walk. Oftentimes in the past, comboed off with the Lingering Apparition, but considering the melee-heavy setup that we're seeing for Team FaceCheck, I would not really mind them picking up Paralyzing Rage here.
Yeah, get those double slows there, allow for your Falstad to wham on your opponents. Greyman as well gets that moment to push in. I do want to commend Team FaceCheck, though. All tournament here in the Eastern Clash, we've been seeing the double giants into the Mercenary play, where both teams are grabbing both Mercenary time at the same time. Team FaceCheck put some aggression on the top right, slow down their opponents from moving into the mercenary camps, and use Wisp to scout that out, which allows for them to make aggressive plays on the map. Right now, they're trying to move in and get a pick on Rhaegar. Luckily for CE, Rhaegar's got his mind up and aware, is able to pull away, but I still like the adjustment because we've been missing it all tournaments.
And talking about adjustment, the Ghastly Reach taken on level 7 for Leoric as we see Team FaceCheck pushing the bot lane. Definitely not the talent that I expected here. It helps you with wave clear, but it feels like a bit of a missed opportunity considering how heavy that front line on the side of Team FaceCheck is.
Yeah, if you wanted to go for wave clear, the Royal Focus build is always wonderful to move into, but hang on, that Hardened Bone's going to help out here as Paradise taking some damage here from Arthas and Kim. Are going to be forced to pull away, but it's all protecting those giants. Can we get more damage on this gate wall so the temple of the south will be better for Team FaceCheck?
Ideally, of course, we would try and get even the fountain, but the fight is still continuing again. Leoric being attacked by those Hardened Bones, helping him out as he moves past. Talking about moving past, up at the top lane, Falstad moves past the fort and takes it down. Dahaka not able to stop him.
Yeah, this is the benefit of CE actually waiting to grab their mercs when they were invaded earlier, is they grab them now. And you see them break down the fort with the adjustment of Falstad, looking to even get some damage on the keep wall. Can he maybe get a kill too? No, Virgil barely getting away.
Yeah, he stayed way too long in the camp. There were no minions on his own to just tank these shots, so he was fighting against Falstad and the Knight camp. Falstad has a very good position now up at the top and can really execute the pressure plays, whereas down here it's all about the 4 versus 4, and this is where CE makes again a stand, but here comes Arthas.
And here comes Dahaka as well. It's going to be a 5v4 as Falstad is not here. CE taking a beating here as Shy will fall at the same time. Wind and Paradise barely retreating, but the rest of the shots of the temple will go over to Team FaceCheck and they'll get the fort open. But good news for CE, look at the top left.
Dahaka moved down to the bottom for the fight, and that means that we have now still Falstad rocking away at the structures. And on Sky Temple in particular, every single structure you take down without the help of the objective is a big win for you. So they must feel really good about what they were able to do up top now.
I can see why CE stayed down there in the bottom right. When Falstad did put that pressure on Dahaka on the top left and was underneath the quarter health, you can assume, okay, maybe he's not going to rotate in. He won't have the essence, but he turned around and tapped the well, which allowed him to come in and be sustained just enough to turn that fight around. And CE going to be hurt on that one for a while here. Now, luckily, both teams are going to hit level 10, so they have a chance.
Yeah, for me it's once again about Shy here. He died twice now already, both deaths are on him, and he is of course a priority target since he was the main damage dealer in the 4 versus 4 fight at the bot lane. But he needs to be careful here, especially since Uther on level 10 picked the Divine Storm. A fantastic talent if you have to deal with an aggressive player. And here we go again, a nice cleanse. Really well done by Rhaegar, but the fight is not over just yet. Rhaegar fallen victim after throwing down the Ancestral. In comes Falset, and the Mighty Gust opens up an opportunity for maybe getting a kill, but it's again Team FaceCheck that turned the fight around.
Yeah, Zayu and Paradise need to retreat from this fight. They didn't get the stuff they wanted, nor were members low enough for Falset to come in. It takes a bit for him to actually come online. That Seasoned Marksman needs to hit, and of course at 13, that Giant Killer would help out for breaking Dahaka and Arthas. Until then, CE being down a member, needs to retreat, set up, and make sure that they keep an eye on the boss and the rest of the map.
But the way the fight started was very reminiscent of what we've seen so far. Greymane a bit too far out, gets locked down, and then Uther comes in for the Divine Storm. And it was only because of Rhaegar that Greymane survived. A quick cleanse helping him out, helping him to move away, the Ancestral thrown out, but at the same time Rhaegar had to go too deep to make it happen and then was taken out himself. So a bit of a problem for them here. But we have again an opportunity for fighters down at the bot lane. We're now looking at a 4 versus 1.
4 versus 1, helping out. False able to handle that middle and top lane. And to be fair, you don't really have to pressure on top too hard there if you're able to head up on the bottom side. That's where False can go and take on over. Team FaceCheck, though, not feeling the push on their bottom left 4, coming in for an engage and want to try and slow down their opponents, and they do get the slow on Shy.
Yeah, Paradise barely able to move out here, activating the Wraith Walk incredibly early, but still outside of the drag range of Dahaka, who now starts to take control of the temple. Now keep in mind, he still has the global available, so he can join the fight over the mid-temple whenever he wants to do so. At this point, none of the teams have 13 talents, but it looks like we are going to see a fight for Arthas when he pops the Army of the Dead. Dahaka comes in from the back and tries to get the drag.
Coordination slightly off for CE. Can they retreat as Leoric gets lower and lower? The Hardened Bones helps him stay alive, but the fight, the moving, aggressive play from that Greymane, the Leoric Entomb does not pay off. The Divine Storm, however, does pay off as Garnet Devil sets up his team for a kill.
Shy is down and so is Leoric. Falset up at the top, tried to get the experience for level 13, but it did not help. They didn't get the early talent and therefore couldn't go into an advantageous fight. Fight was forced before that, and this is for Team FaceCheck now. Kills number 4 and 5. They are currently 5 and 0 in kills.
5 and 0. Team FaceCheck coming in as bad. Did you think they would be this far ahead?
No, absolutely not. I think that what we are seeing from CE is better play with their globals, but at the same time they are engaging into very weird fights where they can't really win, but it feels like they engage into a battle they do not have to take. And in all those fights, the synergy that we've seen from Team FaceCheck was absolutely superior. So right now, FaceCheck is looking very strong here, and CE just needs better team fighting if they want to make this happen.
Well, there's a way to get a team fight going their way. They do turn around and focus Uther. They will have to be careful, using sanctification to make sure there's no retaliation from Team FaceCheck. KT4 and crew, though, are wanting to force the scenario.
Isolation on Greymane. They're trying to turn it around once again. It's still a 5 versus 4. Falset looking for a potential attack, but the thing is, he is already on cooldown when it comes to his heroic ability, and without the Mighty Gust, he just can't make that play for his team. But they still hold control over the temple at the bot lane and soak the last few remaining shots. They really need to work on the opponent's structures, though, because at this point, speaking of infrastructure, CE is definitely behind.
I do think they'll start working on that structure pretty soon, though. With that Falset coming with that 13, the Giant Killer, you see how much of a truck he can be with hitting his opponents. They had Team FaceCheck actually stay in that fight for a while longer because of Uther bringing out the heals, but the moment they realized, okay, Falset's here on the side, and we can contest, and decided to go ahead and pull away, which was a smart choice from Team FaceCheck. There's a lot here for CE now, and it's all about the right engage.
I mean, we have right now both of the teams are nearly even experience, so we've seen, I feel, different strengths so far from both teams in the game. CE focus or getting a bit more out of their global pressure, whereas on the other hand, Dahaka maybe not having quite the impact yet. But when it comes to team fights, Team FaceCheck is having the upper hand. I'm really curious to see what happens once the next temple is activating, if we are seeing maybe at some point the fight over the boss. And also, how FaceCheck is going to react to the top lane, where Falstad is continuously pushing, because it simply feels that Dehaka alone does not have the tools to stop him.
I wouldn't mind a commitment from Team FaceCheck to push that lane in as hard as possible with Dehaka, put their 4-man on the bottom. If there's an overextension from CE to defend that top lane from Dehaka, go ahead and just move in for the boss and try to break it down. Team FaceCheck needs a little bit more control on the map here, because you're right, CE's been playing it a little bit better when you actually think about that check mark when it comes to how you play the game.
Yeah, and talking about it, Vision has now also been grabbed by CE, which gives them, of course, a slight advantage in terms of rotation spotting. And they see now Arthas moving in here. And so far, Uther is all the way at the bot lane. This is definitely a fight that you do not want if you're Team FaceCheck.
Yeah, please back up. You want that Divine Storm. So far, it's been pivotal for them to get an early lead in the fight, and it will continue to be pivotal as we move towards the late game. 16, about to hit for FaceCheck.
It's basically both of those teams just saying, all right, until level 16, no fights, boys. Let's just wait. Give it another minute or two, and once we hit 16, we can fight again.
A tip of the hat as they swipe each other as they walk towards the bottom lane to get that 16, and here it is. One lone temple up and available.
It looks like the non-aggression pack just ended. We have everyone starting to move in from Team CE. Dehaka gonna tunnel in as well. Looks for the drag, connects it on Rhaegar. There they come. Ancestral, not used yet, but we have the Sanct and also the Mighty Gust used as both teams clash heavily against each other. The Storm goes through, but so does the Ancestral.
And 5 members from CE are retreating, trying to run away as KT4 chases forward, looking for the engage. He hit the Howling Blast. KT's low on health, though. Needs to get the heal from his teammate. He'll be focused down. Members still low for CE.
Oh, the turnaround as we are having them poking away with Falstad, who now dies as well, though. The original strat really well played out, but now it's CE again on the run. They were retreating, and then they saw an opportunity with a constant stutter step poke to turn it around against Arthas. They get the kill. But as it turns out, Team FaceCheck is still too well coordinated for them to get the win in the team fight. They lose 2 additional heroes, so big problem here for CE.
Certainly a close one between the two teams, and I thought that would be much better for Team FaceCheck, simply because CE wasted both Invocation and, of course, the Mighty Gust on a drag that happened. They tried to go for the disengage. I thought the 2 heroics being burned would have been a bit more messy for them, but Arthas overstepping allowed CE to respawn back.
I come back to the level 7 talent on Leoric. Paralyzing Rage in these fights would do so much for CE. Just when you try to retreat and to get the poke in so that you can go for a turnaround, the utility you get out of the talent just outweighs all the wave clear and damage that Leoric can get with a Ghastly Reach here. So at this point, it's definitely something they're missing a little bit. And if they can maybe get that isolation later on, they might be able to turn it around. But so far, when we're talking team fights, it has been Team FaceCheck.
Team FaceCheck staying here. Remember, gotta be careful for that level 20 that is looming around with that Leoric at the Spectral Leech. But for now, they're controlling the tower. KT4 on the bottom side has to be wary of a holy ground.
Again, we see Lunara jumping out. Here comes the Entomb. They want to go for Arthas once again. Looking good thus far, but he has the army still up, and they are all engaging on him. Falstad trying to fly out, but gets taken apart by Charism, and Arthas is still alive. Here comes the stun from Uther. They go for the second kill. They get it. Leoric is dead.
Same time, Ancestral Healing was used to Eve. Tape up with the fight. Greymane at the same time going in, but Greymane gets caught. A drag from Virgil. It's going to hit Tyrael. He gets low on health, and that's 4 members down for CE. Team FaceCheck dominates that team fight.
Welcome to Stomp City as Team FaceCheck takes out 4 players, 11 kills against 2, and now exactly what you would expect is happening. You take down 4 heroes of the opponent's team. Time to go for the boss, boys.
Only unfortunate thing in that fight was CE chased Arthas a little bit too long. The point when he's running and moving to a different bush is the moment that Greymane needs to get off him and turn to a different target.
Yeah, and also in the back, we just saw Falstad, and he was basically just saying like, team, hi? Does
Please
anyone
help.
have a heal, anything? And he was trying to fly out as he realized that he would never be able to move away from Charazim. But as you said, everybody else was chasing Arthas, and he just hit that R button over and over again, smashed it, and healed himself up to the point where Uther finally moved in, delivered the stuns, delivered the heals, and then it was just a cleanup job for Team FaceCheck.
Team FaceCheck has taken everything they can here to bolster a massive push on the bottom lane. They have a boss, they have 2 giants. They're going in for keep walls and a keep. If they get a pick, if they hit level 20, this can be game.
This definitely could be. On the other side, maybe with a good engage, maybe with a good Mighty Gust, there might be a play on the side of CE, but they don't have Sanctification up yet. And that's the problem. Another 8 seconds, and they might be able to make something happen here. But as you said, level 20 is so close, and this keep is going to fall, delivering extra experience into the hands of Team FaceCheck.
Base check, not quite at 20, going to back up and not allow themselves to get caught. There is always a threat of CE flying in, Mighty Gusting them into a fight and forcing them to move in before that small inkling of 20 hits.
And now you have a big issue. 20 has just hit, and we have temples activating in another 20 seconds. This is definitely the worst case scenario for them. Trying to get experience, especially with Falset at that bot lane. But you already know you're going to lose out. And just look at this invade as FaceCheck just throws caution into the wind. They have level 20 talents. They know they're superior here. But Lunara is incredibly low.
Hostinger playing with fire here, and he will get taken out. Jumping a little bit too aggressively, and CE is turning this fight around. 19 to 20. Paradise low, but it's only Leoric. But if they lose Wind, that could be devastating.
Wind is about to fall here, trying to escape, jumps back out. He has the holy ground. That was well done. Karazim falls. Oh my god, look at CE. They're fighting against an opponent who has a level 20 talent already. And all of a sudden, they're starting to make the plays here. Even with Leoric completely whiffing his Entomb and only catching an Arthur's minion.
CE somehow makes it work, and one of the reasons why it worked, that holy ground coming in. Uther couldn't get up there, and as you mentioned, whiffing those major fights. Team FaceCheck with Hostinger moving in a little bit too aggressive, goes down to a quarter health before the fight even started.
FaceCheck won every single fight of the game. Then they hit level 20. They have an advantage, and they try to aggressively invade the night camp that was taken by an opponent that was lacking the storm talent. And because they funneled into their position, nobody really protecting to Lunara. She falls first, and it's the first fight that they lose, and it's the one fight that they should have won with a landslide.
Welcome to the new Chinese meta here. You fight us before level 20 and we will take you out. CE in a great spot right now, controlling the top lane, sieging on keeps here. And if they can control that top temple and the middle one, they may get their first keep of the game.
Yeah, CE is currently back to business here. FaceCheck, of course, have catapults on the bot lane now, pushing in slowly. That's where we saw Falstad trying to push the lane out a bit before joining the fight up here, because this is what really matters right now. This team fight on level 20 talents. The Spectral Leech alone is already going to be fantastic. Leori moving out here. Stun after stun is hitting. And the Ancestral saves Tyrael, who was isolated. Arthas is falling, but so is Leoric.
Devastating 7-sided strike here. Leoric and Arthas have ball fallen, but if they can delay out this fight, Leoric will come back in. Virgil trying to prevent the fight from breaking that far, though, by going in for a drag. He hit Shy, but Shy lives.
Virgil, on the other hand, goes for the burrow here, and this is just buying him a little bit more time. Nothing else. He goes down, and Leoric is going to be back in another 25 seconds. His trade really helping him out here to spawn just so much faster, and also in the middle of the map. So it's CE who starts to take that advantage. And look at Falstad. Epic mount, and immediately he flies back to the bot lane. He knows what his job is. That keep that was lost earlier is now just pushing against their core over and over again with catapults, and Falstad is on cleanup duty. He's always the one moving back down, making sure that they are never threatened here.
Caldor, I'm getting worried here. It might come down to a spot where Team FaceCheck might think that the only way to win this game as they move into this late game is to go for a Hail Mary boss, try to proc their opponents into an odd fight.
I don't think they can make it happen. Uther is fantastic in this situation because of his stun. But what I'm really worried about is just simply that with Sanctification and the Gust, there are too many tools available to CE. And I believe if they play their cards right, a boss fight would end in their favor.
Well, we have a couple of seconds here as our teams wait around for the next temple to spawn. Neither team making a major mistake at all. CE for the moment trying to hold the middle of the map while they wait for Rhaegar to come back to the field and be near the team. Already Paradise sharking in the bush, willing to come out for an Entomb.
And FaceCheck decided to be a bit more aggressive here towards the Storm Talents with the Death's Advance taken for Arthas here, speccing heavily into the movement speed, which would allow him to start and go chase Falstad, maybe Greymane. But talking about Arthas, here he is, and well, he's gone because that was a perfectly executed isolation kill.
That it was. They thought that they had Dahaka could come in for the moment and bring out the engage. Also, Uther on the back line, but the Gust securing the heal. That's now popping out, and that's going to be the boss.
Right there. Gust was used, granted, but they still have the Sanctification, and this is an easy decision to be made. You have a 5 versus 4 going on the map, and right now, FaceCheck, what can they actually do about this? I think they have to simply accept it. It's way too risky. If the boss is taken, you lose the keep. If you get wiped at the boss trying to save it, then you lose the game.
They do have 4 melees, though, with Arthas being spawned up, which will make it a bit difficult to control this boss. But I think you're right. The reward for trying to go in for that engage, too difficult to pull off.
I think your only choice here is really move past the boss as a 5-man unit and try to force the fight and hope for the best. The problem is really that with 2 temples activating on the map, there's a lot of additional plays that CE has available to them now.
CE making a case here to break down this keep wall. But the Haka that's back on home. He wants to be here for the defense. Arthas spawning in 2 seconds here, has spawned up. Army the Dead up in 10.
Once again, we're seeing them moving in. CE's on the move. Here comes that flank we've been talking about. Where's that storm? Here we have it. Already the Sanctification being dropped onto the ground. The first death is on Uther. He doesn't have redemption. Keep that in mind. He won't be coming back here. But at least the Auric is incredibly low and is going to fall.
Paradise does fall. Can Ostinger get his poison on the multiple members to slow them down? He does get on 2. He gets it on a 3rd. And CE will lose 3 members in that team fight. The boss continues to chug forward. But Team Phase Check is making a play. They think they may have to go for game.
Team Phase Check is trying to go for the game now. They made that flank happen that we've been talking about,
Base
and
race?
they just wrecked the opponent here. Base race is a potential. If you have Greymane and you have also Foresight, you can make that play. But they're trying to go for the 2 temples, and this might as well work. You already scratch at the shield. There's only 1 keep left. This could definitely work out for them here.
Temples versus melee attacks. Lunara, Dahaka, and Karazim attacking the core, 70% to 80%. CE trying to keep the lead here, but they are losing here. It's going down, the Entomb popping out, and so far Team Phase Check is going to actually fall here as CE gets the kill with Temples.
The race is real, and with 0% to 12, we have Team CE turning the game around. And it all comes down to the one big fight, level 19 versus 20, where CE was finally able to put the pressure onto Lunara and take her down.
So hard to be in control the entire game and go into that one moment where you feel like it all falls apart. The level 20 power spikes being too much here for CE. Gilly, what did you think of that match?
I want to give a huge shout out right off the bat to Suyu, keeping CE in that game with Falstad, because even though they got behind in structures, even though they got behind in kills, Suyu's patience in not just getting baited as a global into fights was huge, that he was just willing to say like, oh, we're going to lose this fight, like on the bottom temple. He stayed in the top. His split soaking allowed them to make the plays they needed to do to come back in that game.
At this point, I have to say that if you look at Team Phase Check right now, if you are measuring how tilted they are from level from 1 to Idra, there is just no, I mean, this must really gnaw at them right now.
I don't know if you know if our audience has been around long enough to even know who Idra is.
They know that reference. I know Gilly had a little bit of a jump there, and I respect our audience enough to not make that reference.
Well, the tilt may be real here, but they need to squander it and get ready for game number 2. They need to think about the positives in that match. They were in a spot where they were ahead of their opponents. In fact, they were out-ganking, out-rotating them for many minutes in that game. So I would love for them to make sure that they stay on track here going into game number 2, because you can't fall victim after one lost team fight.
I still can't really believe that this happened. They were so far ahead. They had this game so many times, and then they have the 20, and Team Phase Check just lose it. Even when they were going for that fight and they were able to win the battle, I honestly thought, I did not think they would go for the core. I thought they would defend the boss, they would try to take the 2 temples. Yes, they lost 2 keeps in the meantime, but I thought they would just say, okay guys, in the long run, we're going to win this. But I think they were really afraid of the globals. When
you look at the faces of CE, though, it's not like it's a huge walk in the park, right? They were behind that entire game, and they got a fortuitous base race situation that they were able to go through. So honestly, I think both of the teams just need to take a deep breath and try to write game 1 off, because yes, it was CE's favor, but it could have very easily gone the other way.
And we are going to head into the second map now, going to check out what exactly the map choice is here. Because the first one was definitely, as you said, Gilly, not really a walk in the park, but on the second map, I really wanted to see how the draft is going to unfold for the 2 teams here. And of course, for that, we first of all are going to take a closer look at which map was chosen.
Well, knowing our teams, now knowing that TFC did lose the last one, likely they're going to pick first pick. And CE had chosen Sky. We've got towers already banned, so Braxis is still on the table as a possibility for the Chinese team. They do love their Braxis.
Yeah, especially Tim would really like to see Braxis sold out here.
I would love to see it, mostly because I love their composition that they run. The Chin, Greymane, Sylvanas, Brightwing, and the Karazim, where they go all in on the idea of just breaking down structures similar to Fnatic on Sky Temple, and they try to push down their opponents and control the beacon progress afterwards. But we'll see if that comes our way. For now, it looks like we're going to Infernal Shrines.
Yeah.